it's 6 o'clock, so we can start. First of all, I want to thank everyone for coming in person as well as joining us online. My name is Jason St. Peter. I am a member of the Berkshire Hills Regional School Committee and also the chair of the Minor Mountain Building Project. This is our third community forum, so thank you for those who are joining us for the first time, the second time, the third time. What I'm going to do is we're going to give a brief overview, and then I'm going to hand it over to Nick from Skanska Design. Skanska, who's our owner's project manager, who's going to talk, and then finally to Donna Tedisco from Tedisco Design, who's our architect, who's partnered with William Ron, and she's going to talk to the project as well. Next slide. So, as we all know, there's broad consensus that we need an updated school. This includes the MSBA, which is the Massachusetts School Building Authority, which is the public entity that supports the vast majority of new builds in the state. They provide a significant amount of money toward new projects, and they help with the design. So, since 2010, this has been together. We all know that. The current building does not meet our educational needs, limits our ability to support high quality learning. It's the only high school in the Berkshire County built during this time period that hasn't been renovated or replaced. Taconic and Wacona have both been completely replaced with new buildings. Mount Greylock has had an extensive renovation in addition. And this really puts our students at a disadvantage. The existing school is not a reflection of who we are. This is a school that hasn't had any major upgrades since the 1960s, and we're here in the mid-2020s. And again, it's not fair for our students to go on like this. It's an aging facility. It's exceeded its useful life, both educationally and as well as the building itself. Continued investment required to maintain an outdated building with limited educational benefit. It's just a bad return on investment. So we've really reached the point of no return. That's not to say that our fantastic staff, Steve Soul, and all the way through back to previous administrations have done a great job with improvements all through. Kept the building really in remarkable shape considering how long it's been in use for. We've addressed safety and security issues. Portions of the HVAC system, the one that as much as we can, have been replaced. Improvements to labs and classroom, again, with the limited space and needs as best we can. Since COVID and the large medical suite, furniture, fixtures, etc. So we've done, I think, an extraordinary job of maintaining it. But again, that we've crossed that bridge, and that's ship has sailed, to use all the familiar terms, and really there's not much more we can do going forward. So next slide. Yeah, so this is just, again, cost to maintain the existing building. So we're going to kind of go backwards. You look in the lower right hand corner, just to basically maintain and bring it up to existing code, it's roughly about $89 million. And then staying in that right hand column, you'll see the MAAD compliance, 7.4 million, and the fire sprinklers, 5 million. So the building's assessed at about 16 million, a little over $16 million. If we hit about a third of that over a 5-year period through any kind of improvements, we trigger those two codes. So that's 7.4 plus 5. So then you go to the left-hand column. The HVAC system, again, it's over 60 years old, hasn't been replaced. It's obsolete. There's no parts we can get for it. Any part, we really have to have it fabricated, especially even then it's getting harder and harder to do. So, I mean, that alone will trigger the code upgrades. So then you should go down the roof, exterior windows, all that stuff. And again, this is just to replace what we have. So going back to the HVAC system, there's no air conditioning in any of the classrooms. And that would still be the case unless we increase this number more. So basically, if this project doesn't go through, we're still going to have to do all this stuff to the tune of, roughly $89 million, perhaps more. I mean, that's when you do a renovation like this with students in there, an old frame. I mean, the potential for cost to increase are a lot more than if you just build a new building. So we'll go to the next slide. Yep, the cost to maintain the existing building with, again, this is just for the 89 million, unaddressed needs. The educational deficiencies, the science labs are still gonna be poor, the auto lifts in the auto shop are still not gonna go up high enough. This doesn't do anything to address the traffic flow and safety, all the security that will replace the windows, but we're still gonna have 100 and whatever walk-through windows around the building, indoor environmental quality. Again, all those middle classrooms, they don't have windows, that'll still be a problem. And again, another big factor is the disruption. I mean, if we try to do an overhaul in a building while the students are still in there, it's gonna be phased construction, you know, probably portable classrooms. As I said before, the cost could escalate. When are they gonna do? I mean, do summer slammers, but again, you're gonna increase costs, and it's gonna be, when we looked at just an ad reno, it's 48 months. So, you know, we're talking probably 5 to 10 years, I would assume, if not even longer to get this done. And again, 100% of this is paid by the district. There's no MSBA funding. So this is where we're gonna be if, you know, the project doesn't go. This has to be done, so, you know, it's really the time, and we're lucky that we got into the MSBA program. Because again, along with their guidance, they provide, you know, over $50 million, hopefully, to any new project. And with that, we're gonna show a video here. For those in the room, we apologize, there's gonna be a little echo because the computer's gonna be going as long as the owl, but we'll try to make it as painless as
Berkshire
possible.
Hills Regional School District has a rare opportunity to fund a Monument Mountain construction project with the MSBA. The MSBA is a state agency that helps local school districts pay for the design and construction of schools. It's competitive and needs-based. When Monument Mountain was accepted into the program in 2022, 54 schools applied. Monument was one of only 10 projects across the Commonwealth selected. The acceptance rate for the MSBA's core program translates to 15 to 20%. The work is tough, but the payoff is significant. By completing the MSBA Marathon, we will unlock tens of millions of dollars in grants that won't come out of our local property tax assessments. If approved, Monument will benefit from an educationally appropriate and cost-effective building for today's students and generations to come. Upon being selected into the program, we immediately began meeting eligibility requirements, like forming a school building committee of school administrators, town officials, and volunteers. We also selected a project manager and an architect, which with the school building committee form our project team. The project team's first job? A feasibility study to determine Monument Mountain's physical and educational needs to deliver a next-generation education for our young people, and whether those needs call for renovation, addition, or replacement of the school. Berkshire Hills Regional...
Sorry, do not want to replay that. Sorry.
So, as the video alluded to, obviously we're partners with the MSBA throughout this process. These are the modules that they outline for every project to go through. We're currently in module 3, the feasibility study. As part of module 3, there's 2 submissions that we make to the MSBA, PDP, preliminary design program, and then PSR, which we're getting ready to make in December. That's the preferred schematic report. Throughout these 2 sections, we look at multiple options, multiple new construction options, multiple addition renovation options, as well as a base renovation, which kind of sets the baseline for the whole project. So coming up in December, there's a critical decision which solution we're going to go forward with, whether it's add renovation or new construction that the school building committee and the whole community will make. From there, we'll have an MSBA board meeting in February to approve that. And then we move into schematic design, which is the last design phase before we have the upcoming vote in the fall. And then from there, we move into more detailed design and then eventually construction.
So when we first started, before we even put pen to paper, we really wanted to know what was important to Monument Mountain. What were your goals and objectives and vision for the project? And it was really clear from the very onset that cost is a significant contributor and factor in any solution that we'll have for the Monument Mountain project. But given its investment, it also needs to be sustainable and maintained for the generations to come, which means that the building needs to be flexible and adaptable to support future generations as programs shift and change over time. We've done an amazing job with the career tech and growing those programs over the years, but the current building can't support those and create a great connection with the comprehensive programs. So the goal is to have a collaboration or connection between the career tech and comprehensive programs. Health, safety, and welfare, which we'll get into in a minute, is also extremely important, but also looking towards the community and recognizing this really is a community asset. We have amazing programs that are used within the school, and we want to maintain and enhance those. So from a sustainability perspective, our goal, which we anticipate will be feasible, is to create a net zero energy capable school, meaning we will have a building that will have the infrastructure ready so that you can come in after with your solar panels, whether it's on the roof or your canopies in your parking lot, and it will be a plug and play. And we can talk more about that at the next community forum. But our goal is to have a net zero energy ready school. We also want to be careful and think about reduction of carbon emissions and embodied carbon. And what a lot of people don't talk about or think about when we talk about sustainability is to create a healthy indoor environment. We can do that very cost effectively and being smart about the systems and the airflow throughout the building. But we also focus on things like daylight views, which are so important to the health and well-being of staff and students. Of course, the other component of getting to know you is understanding what your educational goals and visions were. Again, very similar to the overarching project goals is the career tech and academic integration. We want to make sure that all students have the same opportunities to succeed. There's conversations about collaborative and project-based learning, but again, keeping an eye towards flexibility because this building will be with you for generations to come. A safe and welcoming arrival is critical to support everyone on the campus, as well as having safe after school use activities. So ultimately, learning from all of you, we want to support what you currently do and do so well, which is meeting the needs of all your learners. You have incredibly strong academic programs, a wide range of career tech opportunities, as well as some innovative pathways, which you should be commended, and let's try to support those with a new school. We want to enhance the opportunities, the commitment that you have to art, music, and drama, as well as expanded opportunities for PE and wellness. And ultimately, it's to make sure that we can provide the support for all the programs that you have for the specialized needs of all students. All of this goals and objectives and understanding your program really inform the educational program that we had to submit to the MSBA as part of the preliminary design program, as Nick identified. The educational program identifies all of the programs. It talks about the spatial relationships and adjacencies, such as the collaboration and the adjacencies for the career tech and your comprehensive programs. And all of this put together defines your space needs and then ultimately the total square footage of the building. Working with the MSBA, they have an incredibly prescribed process that we have to adhere to. They've developed what they call a space summary template that we have to abide by. What you'll see is the programs that they list in the far left column. We've identified all of your existing spaces attributed to those individual programs. And then what you'll see is your gross square footage of your building is approximately 115,000 square feet. We've worked hard in making sure that we've provided all the appropriate spaces for all of your programs, but we also went a step further to see how we can maximize the utilization of the classrooms or spaces so we're not overbuilding. Our goal is to make this as cost effective and as affordable as possible. But ultimately, based on MSBA guidelines, because they do tell us your classroom cannot be smaller than 825 square feet, and they have all kinds of parameters when we do this, that your overall square footage for your building to support your current programs is about 140,000 square feet. What you'll see is the MSBA guidelines column here. MSBA, it's all about math. They put in the number of students, which is 485 students, and it just formulates these numbers. But what's important to note, and I'll explain in a second, is that they don't take into consideration a lot of the unique programs that every community has. But just based on their guidelines, they're saying, you know, your gross square footage should be about 110,000 square feet. We've had a preliminary conversation with them. They're actually very supportive of all of the programs that you offer, especially through the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. And we're confident that they'll support us in all of these spaces. The two items that they won't support that will exceed their guidelines would be an auditorium. Right now, we're approximately 1,500 square feet over their allotted amount. They'll allow us to build that, but they won't participate in the reimbursement of the additional square footage. And the same would be for health and PE, but actually we're designing something that's even less than what they would allow. So they recognize that each district's core academic and special education programs are unique. They'll review all of the academic space based upon our educational program. MSBA and DESE, Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, will review the vocational and technology spaces based upon the ed program. And DESE will make sure that you're providing adequate space for special education programs. So as Nick said, the first submission, which was in July, was our preliminary design program. It was a culmination of your educational program, the space summary, and then we had to evaluate 3 different options to submit to the MSBA. One's a code upgrade repair only option. The second one is we need to look at a renovation addition and then new construction. So we went through that process. We've identified here actually 6 options that we considered during the preliminary design program. You'll see columns 1 and 2, alternative 1 and 2A, that those are shaded gray, because MSBA will not support those because they actually don't meet your educational program. They want us to test what a cost would be for a code and repairs only option, so that you can see what that cost would be as you compare it to other solutions that will meet your educational program. Alternative 2B has also been dismissed because in order to make this option work, it requires portable classrooms. And that would be a significant investment or expense that MSBA doesn't even participate in. And it was determined if we're going to invest money into the school, it should be permanent. So the outcome of the PDP was that it was recommended that we wanted to continue to further study a major renovation addition and 2 new construction options. I do want to point out, as soon as a number hits the streets, we know everyone just immediately goes to these. But what's important to note is that the preliminary design program costs really are not meant to imply that this will be the cost of your project. We haven't even started to really design it yet, but it's a tool for us to look at weighing each of the options against each other to see which ones make the most sense. So as Nick said, we reduced the options that we wanted to continue to evaluate, and that's why we're here tonight. We want to bring you an update of those, and then we will be submitting the preferred solution to the MSBA in December. So we're looking for your feedback tonight, and then we'll be looking for your feedback on November 25th, and we'll actually have real costs that we'll be sharing with everyone. And that input will help inform the building committee to make decision on which solution to bring forward to the MSBA. So again, just to quickly remind you, we're looking at a renovation addition 2C, a new construction, which we affectionately call 3E, and then new construction, also 3H. I'm just going to spend a little time because we've actually worked really hard over the past few months since our last community meeting, just to show you what we've been working on and how we've arrived at some of the solutions or options that we want to continue to study. So we looked long and hard at a renovation addition and how we could best do this. We looked at two possible locations for the addition. One is what is east of the existing building, which is really up against the fields and on the back side of the building, or to the west of the existing building, which is actually in the front of the building, facing Stockbridge Road. When we started looking at the east locations, whether it be a single story or two-story, this would mean that the cafeteria would have to be offline for a duration of about 12 months while that was being renovated. The administration space, which is currently located in this nook in the middle of the building, they would be displaced while we had to renovate their space, and then they would move back into it. And more importantly is that the construction, while it won't be on the field, the track and field, there will definitely be disruption to the track and field because the contractor has to have access to create and erect the new addition. So based on those alone, the building committee said further consideration of locating the addition to the east or behind the school is not really ideal. So then we shifted and started looking at the options for locating an addition to the front of the school or to the west of the school. So when we started looking at them, there's a lot of similarities in these, so I'll try to go quick. Putting the addition in front of the school facing Stockbridge allows us to create a new administration office or wing at the front of the school. This creates a sense of arrival, and it really allows the administration to have oversight and supervision of everyone that's coming onto the site and see what's going on site. This also allows us to construct a cafeteria, and that would allow the existing cafeteria to remain in operation while we're constructing the new cafeteria. We spent some time talking to staff and others in the district about the layout of this option. This allows us to cluster a lot of the comprehensive or general classrooms with the career tech programs. And that really resounded well with everyone because that was the goal, is to have this collaboration and connection between the programs. Of course, we would renovate the auditorium and the gymnasium in place as is. And then we would have the opportunity to create a beautiful media center looking out to a nice courtyard. But we wanted to understand what is the disruption going to be. There's a lot of moving parts. So what we're showing here is a 48-month duration for a renovation addition. We think it can be done. It's just we need to anticipate and set expectations for what would occur if this was the preferred solution. So then I said, okay, how can we reduce the overall duration of construction? 48 months is effectively a child's or student's full career at Monument Mountain. So we said, if we constructed a two-story addition, that would allow us to move more students into the addition, and then we wouldn't have to go through as much renovation throughout the building, and we could actually demolish portions of the existing building. In this option, we would still have the administration centrally located, right, as people enter the site for sense of arrival. The cafeteria would still remain. But what we'd be able to do is actually demolish portions of, or the wings of the existing building. This will put a lot of the academic classrooms on the second floor of the addition. And people felt that actually this was less attractive than having all of the classrooms integrated with some of the career tech programs. And so when we looked at this overall, it shortened the duration by 6 months. We're estimating this would be a 42-month phase occupied construction project. So while it reduced the duration, it doesn't significantly reduce the duration. And based on the feedback that we got from staff and what some of our priorities and goals are, people felt that a single-story addition would be the preferred solution as we think about our renovation addition. So we've eliminated all of the options except for a single-story addition that's on the west side of the existing building. And we're going to have priced that out. We're going to further define that to obtain costs and look at that as one of the preferred solutions. So we just wanted to let people know that we've studied these hard, there are lots of moving parts, and it was important to go through this exercise to arrive at a solution, if selected, that it's something that we can support. So I'll quickly go through the 2 remaining new options. This is a 3E. It's a 3-story building that will be located in front of the existing building facing Stockbridge Road. I don't know if you can see, is it clear? You can see the outline of the existing building. This would allow, it clearly meets your educational program, the ideal programmatic relationships, and it will create a new entrance and sense of arrival. Once the existing building is demolished, we can put a practice field that will go in its place, that would be closer to the other fields. We would be able to take advantage of the existing parking lot, so there would be a little less disruption to staff and students. You'll see option 3H in a minute. And the disadvantage to this option would be the existing practice field would be offline during construction. We assume the contractor would be using that area for laydown space, but again, we'll be actually cutting into the hill for this, so we've replicated and replaced it up top. We spent a lot of time to make sure that the site circulation works, and it was really important that we had clear separation of buses, cars, and vans, and that we've been able to provide adequate queuing on site for the parents that come and drop off their students on a daily basis. We've identified dedicated parking for the early childhood program and the automotive program, which are public-facing career tech programs. Just to give a quick walkthrough of this option, this is a 3-story option, and you actually arrive in the middle level, the main level. We have a story below us and a story above us. The central administration will be at the very front with oversight with safety features. The auditorium will be right there as well, so that you can have functions in the auditorium with the ability to close off a good portion of the rest of the building. We have a separate entrance that could also be used for the gymnasium, and people could actually use this entrance as well. We have put the public-facing career tech spaces at levels that can be easily accessed by the community. Going downstairs, we're going to take advantage of building into the hill. So what you'll come downstairs and you'll have the cafeteria and 2 science labs plus the horticulture program with a greenhouse that will be directly outside of the building. This allows everyone to be able to go outside, have outdoor dining, and have access to outdoor classrooms and outdoor learning. Going up to the 3rd floor from the 2nd floor, it would only be one level, is that this is where most of our academic spaces will be located. The grouping of classrooms provide flexibility for academies for the younger grades, as well as flexibility for the integrated grades of grades 9, 11, and 12. And then we've also incorporated the media center on to be the hub of the academic floor. Lots of similarities with 3H. The differences are that this is a two-story building and it will be located on the parking lot. It has the same benefits of creating a sense of arrival, and the school administration will have a presence on site. The disadvantage is that we're planning on building it in the parking lot, the existing parking lot, so we would create temporary parking down at the practice field, but once the existing building is demolished, we'll create a parking lot up top. Again, making sure that the circulation works for clear separation of buses, cars, and vans was really important, as well as allow all of the queuing that needs to occur to happen on site. Similar to E, we have the dedicated parking for these public-facing career tech programs. This scheme is, again, we try to apply the same principles. The main administration will be at the front welcoming everyone. And in this option, we actually are afforded the opportunity to have the cafeteria at the front of the school with the auditorium. So the cafeteria could actually be used for receptions as you also use the auditorium for community use. Again, a second entrance to the gymnasium, if you want to do that. And we'll be able to close off portions of the building for safe and secure access for community for after-school use. And this option, we actually have all of the science labs on a single floor connected to the horticulture, which would have a greenhouse directly outside. But again, very similar to E, grouping of the classrooms will provide us some flexibility for achieving the academy model or for integrated grades. So everyone is saying, but you have us all coming in and out of that same single entrance, and we're telling you it's a problem, and we know that. So we're going to be looking at, we have 3 different ways to address the entrance and egress of the school onto Stockbridge. We're having conversations with Mass DOT on how we can construct 1 or 2 roundabouts. So that's one opportunity here. We know that that will totally slow people down, and students and staff trying to exit will not be faced with that hard T intersection. Another opportunity that applies to all of these solutions apply to any of the 3 options that we're looking at, including the renovation and addition, would be to have an internal road. We could actually close off the existing entrance, and we could bring traffic through and into Monument Valley Road. We would want to be careful though, because it's our understanding that while the horticulture greenhouses that are currently exist at the bottom, while maybe not being used as much for the horticulture program, that there's still some validity in keeping those in place. So whatever solution it is, we'll have to make sure that we're mindful of certain criteria. Another option that we'll continue to further develop and explore is creating a south access drive. So we could have people coming in one way and everyone going out the other way. So we're going to continue to explore all of these options. We recognize how important it is. Working with DOT is great. It just takes time. So as we develop the solution, that we'll be factoring in a solution for the traffic as well. We recognize this is a significant investment, and what is important is that we want to make sure that there are benefits to the larger community as well. We believe that a new school will enhance access for community needs and events, co-locating the auditorium and gym and partially cafeteria will give you safe and easy community access without bringing everyone into the building. We're looking forward to actually celebrating and having improved public-facing career tech programs that the community actually takes advantage of. And then from a sustainability perspective, the goal of reducing energy, lessening carbon emissions and embodied carbon, and creating a healthy indoor environment would be a benefit to the entire community. And then most importantly, we understand this is a huge ask and it's a huge investment, but we believe it's the right thing to do to invest in our community and in our future. So I think Nick highlighted and touched on some key dates. Just to recap, we'll have the community information session November 20th, 25th. We'll have actual costs associated with each of these options. Based on your feedback tonight, hopefully we'll be able to also incorporate some of the input that we received tonight as we move the project forward. The school building committee needs to select a preferred solution, one of the 3 options that we've outlined tonight, on December 4th at their building committee meeting for us to submit to the MSBA on December 19th. We'll then go through our schematic design phase, which will take us to June of 2025, and then MSBA will vote to approve it, and we'll know exactly at that point what the local share will be. And then we're looking for a local vote to approve the project in the fall of 25. So I'm just going to play a quick video.
In Berkshire Hills Regional School District, our mission is to ensure all students are challenged through a wide range of experiences. And we challenge ourselves to serve this mission through student achievement, human infrastructure, financial planning, and communication. And we want the Monument Mountain Building Project to reflect and serve each of these priorities. Your participation and feedback in this process is vital to our success. In Berkshire Hills Regional
It up to everyone. I think we have quite a few people online, and we can pull up the presentation again or answer questions. I guess we have some people here in person, and then we have quite a few virtually. So if you'd like to speak or ask a question, please raise your virtual hand to all of you that have joined us virtually, and then anyone in the audience. Vivian, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Good evening.
My question is based on 2 things. The news that we're getting from what happened in the Southeast, especially in Western North Carolina, South Carolina, and then also in Georgia and parts of Georgia and Florida, in terms of increased likelihood of major weather events and destruction. And Monument Mountain High School is located at a very high elevation in our town. And when I worked in public health emergency planning, we considered the high school as a place that could be a refuge during crises in our town, especially those at lower elevations, if it was dealing with flooding or other such problems. And I'd like to ask whether this has been something that has come up in your discussions, and can it be taken into account as you move ahead on the planning, both in terms of serving the community more along with the students, and in terms of the horticulture, gardening, and agricultural functions in career vocational technical education. As a place, there would be food resources in both in storage and in preparation in case of normal community use and emergencies.
Thank you. Actually, yeah, we've had quite a few conversations regarding the shelter, and we know it's currently used as that. First, I'd like to say that the new school will meet all guidelines and all codes, I should say guidelines, codes, from a structural perspective, as far as seismic and everything else. So, I can't speak to what occurred down south, but we're confident that any construction of a new school would be, well constructed and probably not faced with the same destruction that was occurring down south. As far as the shelter is concerned, we've talked a lot about that. It is currently not a official shelter in the town, but we anticipate the new school to serve as it currently does. We'll have a generator to support the facility, and then we'll make sure that we provide the right ventilation and plug loads and everything else in the spaces that could be used for the community during an emergency, such as the gymnasium, the cafeteria, the auditorium. And we'll make sure that there are bathrooms obviously readily available to support that need as well. So we've been thinking a lot about it. We'll continue those conversations with the public health officials in town to make sure that we meet those requirements. That's a really great thought on the horticulture program and how it can be supported and support the community, I guess I should say, for storage and prep in case of an emergency. And we'll continue to explore that. It's an amazing program. We're talking about how we can maintain all of the structures at the bottom of the hill and how we can continue that growth and support the community in that way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. While we're waiting for any other questions, I just want to highlight, because we threw a lot at you, but as far as going forward, the big date. So in the middle of November, the actual money, the cost will be released. Obviously, everyone's waiting for that, including people on the building committee. So that'll be released sometime in the middle of November. Then November 25th, we're going to have another one of these community meetings where we pretty much have all the information now regarding building the 3 different options, 2 new, 1 ad reno. That'll be the final piece of the puzzle, the cost. And it's those 3 designs with the cost that on my next point, December 4th, the school building committee. And again, just for you, those of you who haven't been here the first couple of community forums, that's a committee that was formed through the MSBA requirements that has school committee members, administrators, teachers, students from the high school, and then community members, both people with kids in school, without kids in school, business people, as wide a variety of people we can get to reflect the needs of the community are on that particular community committee. So again, the finances, the money will be released middle of November sometime. We don't have the exact date. November 25th, there'll be another meeting such as this. December 4th, between that time and December 4th, we'd love to hear from you, everyone on the school building committee. This is when we really want to hear from you, the community, as to which of those 3 choices you would prefer. And December 4th is when we make the decision on which of these 3 options going forward. After we make that, everything else is, supporting that decision until the fall of 2025, when the vote goes to the 3 towns for funding. So that's, in a nutshell, what we're looking at coming up on the next 2 months.
Patrick White?
Hi, thank you. That was a great presentation. I have a quick question. Can you explain how the school population is sized based on what current versus projected enrollment? I don't know, that may be a legal consideration with an MSBA requirement. Like, what's the current school population? On RSVPB, they had projected in 2021 a decline of 27% by 2030. Is that still kind of the current thinking of the school committee, or do we have updated figures? And is it legal to take that into account in terms of the capacity sizing of the building? Thank you.
So it's okay, I could talk to that a little bit.
Yeah.
The number that the MSBA is using is 485 students. And that was picked through like a multi-part process a couple of years ago. And they looked at our current enrollment and with real accuracy, if kids are born, it's pretty easy to predict where things are gonna land. It gets more complicated for young people who don't yet exist because they don't exist. And things change and they're sort of ups and downs. Our current enrollment is slightly less than that. And we're gonna, every year, people know this, like October 1st is when enrollment numbers are reported, but we use that date as the snapshot to report the numbers, but it probably takes us 2 weeks to actually report them because we have what we think is our enrollment, and then somebody in my office checks in with each of our 3 member towns and then all the other towns to really fine tune that number. Patrick, I need to go back and look at the number you're citing, whether that was just reference to Berkshire Hills or was reference to all of South County, but that percent decrease sounds higher than I would.
That's fine. And obviously the cost of the school, a drop of even 10% plus or minus or an increase might not change the cost of building a school anyway, which I recognize. I was just curious.
Just to be clear, the MSBA is the one who came up with that number, and because they're providing, $10, $50 million, whatever their cost is, their demand that they do that, and they use whatever future projections that they have for every other project they use in the state. So they're the ones who, come up with that number and approve it, and, say, if we're gonna be supporting it with this many millions of dollars, we wanna make sure that it's not built too small or too large, and this is our number, and they have a formula that they come up with. But that's strictly from the MSBA, that's their guidance.
Yeah, and just to add to that, their accuracy is pretty remarkable. And it's interesting because many other communities are saying you're not giving us enough space, we think we're gonna have more students, but we base it on fertility rates, birth rates, in migration, out migration, they look at developments in the area, so they have a really sophisticated way to make sure, as Jason said, that the enrollment is, that you're building a school to meet your enrollment. The last thing they want is to have you go to school and find out you actually don't have enough space day one. So they're pretty accurate. Okay. But thank you, Catherine. Yeah, great.
Great, thank you.
What if we needed more space? Is this expandable?
That's a great
It's
question.
not, aren't the building size to 85%? Additional capacity over the 485?
Yeah, so it's 2 things. We will show where an expansion occur. I think what John was referencing is when we factor in how much space, how many classrooms we need, how many program spaces we need, it's based on a utilization factor of 85%. So there is additional capacity within the school to be able to support that. Sorry. But we will look at the possibilities of expansion, should that be a consideration or requirement when you're looking at the options, just show you where it could go. You have some, as a high school, it's a little more complicated than when you're thinking about elementary and middle school, right? What programs would you expand? And then you start thinking about, do the other core spaces, can they support how big of an expansion, right? Your cafeteria is only sized so big, your gymnasium is only sized so big, but we will be looking at that, and showing where an addition could possibly go in the future if we need it. Which, thank you for asking, because I should have said that.
Other questions in this room or online?
We have a question in the chat.
Okay, and then Sheila has it.
Okay, Rachel is asking if it's showing. Can you explain the differential or difference after grants between maintaining existing versus best case scenario of a new bill? Rachel, are you asking what the cost difference is after grants? I think you're asking what the cost difference might be from if we maintain and do nothing, which is approximately, we were saying about 89 million compared to a new school. So I think that's what you were asking? Yes, okay. Let me just share my screen. So what we were showing is that just to maintain the building, it's somewhere around 90 million. You're gonna peck away at this year over year, but what we do know is pretty much almost any of the repairs will trigger the need to bring the building fully up to accessibility compliance as well as the sprinkler, right? When we start looking at the cost using the PDP numbers, not the numbers that we'll be reporting out in about 6 weeks, what you'll see, and that would be 100% on your dime, right? If we look at new construction and we look at the GC is a general contractor. It's the way that you would construct the building. There are 2 paths for construction, public construction in Massachusetts. One is a construction manager at risk. You hire them early, they're involved in the process, and it costs a little more, they're early, they come on early, it's a qualification based, and then typically there's a premium. When you're working with a general contractor, also known as design, bid, build, we design, we put out the drawings for a contractor to bid, and then they come in and they build it. We find that that's a more competitive process because they're not selected on a qualification basis. If they actually have to submit a bid and the lowest responsible bidder gets the job. So that just becomes a less expensive way of going forward with construction. So we believe, the project team, that for new construction, a general contractor is absolutely appropriate for new construction. So again, this is a preliminary design program. I'm gonna say it's 115.5 or 120 million. I just write 50 versus 90 million on your dime. So, Rachel, I think that answers your question. If I do the math, 120 minus 90, right? That's about a $30 million more investment on a school that will serve your needs educationally. It will serve your needs as it will be a brand new school that will last you for generations and generations to come. I hope I answered that correctly.
I think Sheila had.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if you could speak specifically to how, say, the automotive program would be enhanced, expanded, within these various choices.
Yeah, actually, it's really an exciting opportunity. We're actually required for any, other than the repair only, any improvement to the school, especially going through this process, the career tech programs that have been approved by DESE, as well as special education, but we'll stay on the career tech, we have to design it to their standards. So I think it's about a third undersized, it doesn't have the height, it doesn't have all the safety features. Obviously from an environmental perspective, it's totally wide open, right? The doors don't shut. So all of the features and benefits that should be in this space will be accommodated. So right now, we're considering, I think it's, Andy, 3 bays?
Yes.
3 bays with all of the support for, all of the air and the electronics. We've even started talking about the possibility for electric vehicle opportunities or, but we haven't gotten to that level, but it will need to meet DESI guidelines, and it doesn't even come close to that right now. Do you have anything else you would add?
I would say it's around the existing space is something like 2,400 square feet. The new one is, more than 4,000 square feet. As Donna said, the height of the space is critical. We met in there, we've seen, there's been conduit where, the cars have been raised too high and hit the roof, the ceiling. So those are the major improvements, square footage, height.
And then we're also, again, trying to maximize efficiencies, actually create an instructional area for the kids. Right now, I think they sit around I don't know, a table or something, right? So this will give them the opportunity to have proper instruction, a small area that can also be utilized by the carpentry or wood program as well, because there is instruction that would occur. The other nice benefit would be to actually have a safe place for the public to enter the space instead of just walking in and going, hey, right? So having an actual kind of a customer service area to greet the customers. Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Other questions either in here or online?
I am seeing, nope, that was the one question. Yeah, please, yeah.
Can you speak to the same way, sorry, about early childhood education, about classrooms for children?
Yeah, I would love to, it's one of my passions. We actually, as a firm, we design early childhood centers. So, again, it would have to meet DESI guidelines. There would be an appropriate sized classroom for the children, for the early childhood. It's probably about 1,200 square feet with a dedicated toilet to support them at a really low level. Sinks in that classroom as well, proper lighting and acoustics to support them, differentiated program areas within the classroom. We would then have a separate area for, again, similar to automotive and wood shop, that the high school students need a place that they can also have instruction. So we would have a separate space there that would also have like a mini kitchenette to, hold, store the lunches of the children. So it would meet the guidelines as well. It would be far improvement to what's currently there. The other benefit is we're looking at how can we have a dedicated area that parents can drop off their students and enter directly into that space without having to bring the students through the school, as well as a dedicated play area that will be fenced off to support the needs of those students and will be fully accessible. Yeah,
Yeah,
please.
you've done a huge amount of work, all these boards and all these volunteers have done so much. I'm envisioning a point in time when the financial, question is extremely controversial in our town. And what if we turn this down? Is there fat that can be taken out of this? Or is there could you present, a leaner version along with this fabulous version? Does that make any sense? Or is this lean as it is?
We promise you that, thank you for saying it's fabulous. It just responds to your educational program. And our goal is to make this as cost effective as possible. We will be using absolutely the most cost-effective materials that are durable and that are easy to maintain, that will withstand the test of time. This building will be with you for generations to come. Unlike the existing building with the fascia or what everyone perceives as the roof that you can't repaint because it's just lead and all that. This would be very easily maintained. We have spent months looking at the program and saying, how can we make this building any smaller? There's a commitment from the school committee and the school department that you're not going to eliminate programs. The goal of this is to support the current programs that you currently have. And with that being the MSBA, we're required, we have minimum square footages that we have to manage, we have to maintain. So I mentioned earlier, your existing classrooms are 740 square feet. They're little. Does it work? It works for the younger grades when you only have 10 to 16 kids in it, but when you start having 20 to 22 students in them, it gets pretty crowded. MSBA says if you're gonna build, you has to be no smaller than 825 square feet. Your science labs can be no smaller than 1,440 square feet. So, and it also supports this growth idea too, right? So if they're bigger and you have more students, there's an opportunity for that. We have turned this upside down, trying to figure out how we can reduce the square footage of the building that MSBA will support, right? We wrote this educational program that was amazing, that supports all of your programs. Now MSBA is saying, show me where it is in the plan, because it needs to support your educational program. So I don't think the building can get smaller. We will do our best to utilize portions of the building that's called circulation, and how we can maybe make that a little bit smaller, or make the building a little more compact. Anything we can do to kind of reduce it a little bit, but it's not gonna be, you know, more than 2,000 square feet, but we will keep an eye to that.
To be direct, I don't think there's anything we can cut as far as like the core academic areas. I mean, so then you'd be talking about cutting programs. And, you know, the CVTE programs take up a lot of space, and, you know, or we'll have to eliminate, but we're gonna have, if we wanted to cut any more, we have a drastic cut in our educational program and eliminate programs, you know, probably both actually core academic, as well as CVT. So that would be the direction we have to go.
It's actually not that large of a building, right? It's 140,000 square feet. If you take into consideration just the large spaces, the gym, the cafeteria, and the auditorium, you know, you have 16 general ed classrooms. It's not a lot. You have some career tech programs that just are required to be a little bit larger, but you have 2 art rooms, like there's not a lot of, there's no fluff in this. We've actually, even as far as the horticulture program, we're saying we're going to create a horticulture lab inside the classroom that will be designed to be identical to the science lab, so that too can be used. And we made sure that utilization was gonna be, you know, 85% or more. So, yeah, MSBA won't allow it to be much less, because we've outlined the program. If we change the program, we don't have to go back to MSBA. So that would also prolong it, but our focus now is to make this as efficient as we can from a layout perspective, and then make sure from a cost perspective that we are selecting the most cost-effective but durable materials, so that, and easily maintainable, right?
But thank you, that's a great question. It's literally the question everyone on the committee came up with when, you know, the numbers done. It's like, how we, you know, can we have the taxpayers' money spent wisely? What's the biggest bang for the buck, and how can we minimize, you know, that to still have an acceptable educational plan? So right, that's a great question, and I'm glad you brought it up, because that's literally been on the top of our minds, everyone on the committee and in the school for the last, you know, year, however long we've been doing this. So thank you.
Well, Conant's what, 125,000 square feet? They had no chapter 74 programs, so, and their enrollment is very similar to yours, so. It's a very good local comparison.
And what community was that?
Central Berkshire, Wacona High School,
It's in Dalton.
Dolphin,
Dalton, Hinsdale, if there's 5 of them, but Dalton's
7,
seven.
And that's a new school.
Yes.
3 years old,
Do you know what the numbers are from that school?
as far as,
Cost?
we do. That was pre-COVID, so, it was considerably less. What was it?
72 million project cost.
Yeah.
So we're, just curiosity, what is this, is there a rough estimate square foot price?
Yeah, well, when we,
Build price?
yeah, so during the preliminary design program, you know, the number, for it range, let me just pull it up. You know, for new construction, I'm rounding up, okay, about 100. It's about it was approximately anywhere from, like 170 million. That's a total project cost. Then you take into consideration MSBA's contribution, which is over 50 million, right? And then, depending on which direction you go for mechanical systems, there's all kinds of incentives out there for that as well. But even if we just say you go with a gas boiler building, based on the preliminary design numbers, you know, the local share was somewhere around 120 million. But we'll have better numbers in November that we want to share with you. Yeah.
Now, what kind of energy opportunities could there be if we integrated solar as an option? I mean, there's a solar field right across the hillside.
Yeah,
Are there any values in terms of costs? For
Yeah.
solar panels on the structure itself from?
Yeah, so-
windows that are not
yeah, we will,
Spinning our feet backwards, you know.
do you have solar on, you don't have solar on, oh, you do?
In the middle school.
In the middle school, so, yeah, I mean, we design every school now that has the infrastructure to support solar panels. Well, solar panels on the roof and canopies, and then even batteries, right, because those are actually becoming more affordable and smaller. It currently isn't part of the project, but we will make sure that we design the rooftop equipment in such a way that you can maximize your solar. And same thing with the parking lot. We'll make sure that we will show you where you can actually install solar panels or canopies. Another project that we're working on, we actually did the study, and we're happy to do the study as well for here. It's up to you if you want to do a power purchase agreement, right? So that's renting, or you allow the entity to give you money back. Is that how it works? You sell them back a portion of the energy, or you can purchase them. And we're finding that purchasing them is extremely, actually, reasonable. For another project, not the same size, it was 3.5 million to purchase rooftop solar, canopies, as well as the battery storage. 3.5 million, the payback was less than eight years, and then you will be completely net zero. And there are incentives for that as well, that you could take advantage of.
Because that would be interesting. I don't know whether the building committee has explored that option, looking at our costs, annual costs for the facility, whether there are benefits in integrating the system, knowing that we've paid for 50+ years, 60+ years on utility bills, and we will continue to do the same scenario going forward.
Right, right.
You
We'll
know,
go through that.
obviously, we all don't have cash flowing out of our pockets, but it is going to be paid for in time. So it certainly makes sense to make this out.
We can certainly, we'll do that evaluation, what's going to be important, and hopefully we'll roll it out for the community meeting in November. Are the hopeful decision of what mechanical system that the building will choose to use, whether it's boiler, like a gas boiler, or an all-electric building. So we're working on that right now, looking at the life cycle cost analysis, to determine what the benefits are, what, if there's an additional cost or savings by going all electric. So, and then from there, we can absolutely do a solar study to show you if you do a PPA or if you purchase, how much do you need to be net zero? And then what that cost would be, yeah. But I guarantee you the building will be designed to support any solar that you bring onto the site afterwards.
Thank you, Mark. Good question.
I think Joan has her hand up. Joan, do you want to unmute?
Joan or Patrick?
I don't know. Well, Patrick has.
It's Michael speaking. I'm Joan's husband. Can you tell me if your estimate on student enrollment in the future includes school choice? And did you include school choice in the current enrollment?
School choice is included in the current enrollment and in the future enrollment, as well as tuition students. We receive a small number of students from Richmond in 9th grade, and then they stay for the 4 years. And students from, and Richmond ends in 8th grade, so they don't have a high school. And then Farmington River, which is Otis and Sandusfield, which ends in 6th grade. And those students come to us in 7th grade. So I don't have those numbers right in front of me, Michael, but I can break them out or email you tomorrow with more granular detail on that.
Thank you.
Patrick?
Hi, I also just wanted to point out that we may get really lucky on interest rates. We just saw a 0.5 point cut by the Fed, and all the predictions I've seen show significant cuts in the pipeline, depending upon when you're planning on bonding this. You know, the impact on the annual town budget is based on the, annual set of payments, and the huge impact of lower interest rates we may time this perfectly to get a much better deal, especially if you were to take that in addition with the MSBA money. It could be sort of a once in a generation opportunity based on kind of when it looks like you might be bonding this out.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Our fingers are crossed on the interest rates. Other questions?
Michael, did you have another question?
Well, I don't see any more questions, so thank you all. For those of you who showed up tonight in person, thank you very much. I appreciate it. It's nice to have a little audience in the crowd to speak to. And a much larger crowd online, thank you as well. We really appreciate it. And again, look, it's gonna be a fairly rapid time crunch. So middle of November, the numbers will come out. I know Heather's here from Berkshire Eagle, Berkshire Edge is online, Eileen Mooney. So they will do their excellent job as they always do when those numbers hit in the middle of November. And then November 25th, we're gonna be having another meeting just like this to get your feedback. And December 4th, the committee will be voting on which option to choose out of the 3. So again, the website.
Monument Project.
I want to get this right.
Monumentbuildingproject.org. So that's a really accessible, well-designed site, and if you're nerdy and want to go into 10 hours of granular detail, you can do that. And if you're less nerdy and want to get a high-level overview in 5 minutes, you can do that as well.
Yeah, monumentbuildingproject.org. Yeah, for if you want to dive in deep or shallow. All right, well, again,
Yeah, thank you.
thanks again. Appreciate everyone for coming.
Thank you.